Welcome to the show, everybody. It is 2024, and this is Cinema's Last Stand. My name is Cameron Williams Palmyra, but you may call me Cam, and I am joined tonight by the ever-radiant Jayla Nix Palmyra.
Hello.
My trusty co-host. She's going to be with me for all of these.
It's true, unless it's a surprise birthday party.
Don't even get me started. So let's tell the folks at home about who we are in case they're new here. We met right here at our local movie theater.
It might have been this theater.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, it wasn't.
It was number 10, I think. This is number 2.
This is why I keep you around. You remember the details.
We have 10 auditoriums in this theater, and I know the ins and outs of each one. We come here a lot.
It's so handy. It wasn't until last year I learned that the number after a theater name is how many theaters are at that location.
Are you sure you want to put that on the internet?
I had no idea.
So it was July of 2022, and we were both going to see the movie Nope individually, but we were both going to see it alone, is what I mean. And I accidentally hit her with my car in the parking lot. Accidentally.
It's like a worse version of Twilight.
All things happen for a reason. But Jayla, before that, that summer, started her own video podcast.
About a month before, yeah, The Last Scare.
Right before she met me. So tell the folks at home about The Last Scare.
The Last Scare is a home for horror nerds to come together and gush about their favorite feel-good genre. It's my little baby. I love horror movies. They are weirdly comforting to me, and I love talking about them. And that's what we do. We just hang out. We go ins and outs. We go ins and outs. We go into the ins.
We do.
Well, I don't know. I feel like horror.
We goes ins, we goes outs.
We go ins and goes out. I feel like horror is one of the most diverse genres, and I feel like there's so much to talk about, and there's so many ways that you can experience a horror movie, and I find that fascinating.
Favorite subgenre?
Geez, that's really hard. It depends on the day for me. Mm-hmm. I love a good psychological horror.
Me too.
It's probably my favorite, as well as I'd say psychological and psychological.
I'm in agreement there. I wouldn't say body horror is really quite a subgenre.
It's very niche.
It's more of an element that general horror movies can incorporate, but it's one of my favorite things about horror is like something visceral, something tangible, physical.
Cosmic horror. That's another really great one.
Yes, cosmic horror. The body horror episode of The Last Scare was where I joined in December of 2022, so I've been doing that for about a year now. But we decided that we wanted to spread our wings and fly a little bit. So we started a new video podcast / I really want to call it a talk show. I've decided the only difference between a video podcast and a talk show is the platform. If it's on TV, it's a talk show. If it's on YouTube, it's a video podcast.
Right.
But I'm going to generally call this a talk show.
Okay.
Not to split hairs or anything. So we're here to talk about the state of cinema on a more or less week-to-week basis, talk about what cinema looks like and whether or not it's in any real danger here in the streaming economy. The streaming economy has certainly provided a lot of challenges for the movie-going experience, but we have found ourselves reviewing a lot of movies on The Last Scare that we ended up not liking. And a lot of them are things we watched on streaming. A lot of them were things we went to the movies to see. I guess I'm probably just speaking for myself here, but I felt that on a weekly basis, horror didn't have enough to offer me. Like watching a horror movie twice a week, it gets a little tiresome. And we watch so many other movies, like we go see everything. And I just felt that we had more that we need to get off our chest, more that we need to talk about.
Yeah, I agree, really. I love horror. I really do. But also, I do think that we stretch ourselves thin sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. On a weekly basis, I've gotten a little bit tired of horror. but I wanted to have this show be something where we can talk about anything but horror, especially because my family doesn't like horror, and so they don't even watch our other talk show, and I want them to be able to, like, enjoy my work, you know?
Right. We both love movies. We both have great conversations about movies, too.
And horror is not even my, like, number one genre. Would you say it's your number one?
I have such a huge soft spot for it. You know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it, but horror for me is a whole world of its own.
I get more excited for comic book movies than I get excited for most horror movies. Evil Dead Rise was like the biggest exception to that. That was the movie I was most excited for last year.
I do feel like, horror tangent, I do feel like that we are going to experience a big shift as far as theatrical horror movies, and I do think they're going to be on the up and up. I feel like we're going to enter a time where the next horror movie is going to be the exciting thing. Fingers crossed.
But yeah, like a mid-horror movie is not worth talking about on the podcast just because it's devoted to horror when there's like a Barbie or an Oppenheimer coming out.
Exactly. And I think for me, the biggest reason I feel like it is that horror is the cheapest genre to make and with like a almost guaranteed profit. So studios are going like, oh yeah, we'll just make whatever horror movie. People go see it and they don't really put effort into it. And that's the biggest change I think we're seeing now. But that's for another podcast. Do you think that we are in a time where cinema is in danger?
Great question. That is pretty much about what I was about to say. I'm not sure. I feel like going to the movies isn't what it used to be, and I feel like less people are going, but I've yet to check the numbers on that. Sometimes this theater is packed. You know, it's not packed right now because it's like 11.
We took over.
It's 11 a.m. The place doesn't open until 2 p.m., but it's not always this empty. There's usually people in here, but they're kids. They're talking and they're Snapchatting and recording. They're putting
Recording
this on their
the
Snapchat
movie.
story. Like, bro, live your life. Stop documenting your life and just live it. And shut up
Dude.
and don't talk at the movies.
Mean Girls is so bad.
Our experience.
The children
Yeah.
The children in Mean Girls are there.
It's my most recent experience of having to tell some teenagers to shut up at the movies,
They
which I've
listened
done.
though. They were like, oh yeah, my bad.
Yeah, they pretty much stopped after that. There was some whispering, but
I just feel like they've never been told no before until you.
Yeah. So for the purpose of this show, I would like to treat cinema, meaning the movie-going experience, like specifically something playing on this big screen, is in danger, and that we are in the last days of the cinematic experience, which is, it's probably not true. It's probably going to like change a bit over the next couple decades or so, but I mean, I heard our theater is actually getting an upgrade soon, and they're finally opening a new theater in our town because this is the only one currently.
You know, sometimes I get worried, but then we go to Poor Things, and in our little town, Poor Things has a bunch of people watching it.
That was a very refreshing movie, and I'm excited to talk about that
Yeah.
one of these days. But I'm going to talk about the format of this show, what this series is going to look like. We'll probably start out talking about the news of the week, like upcoming movies. We don't watch trailers, so we're not going to do trailer breakdowns, anything like that. But, you know, if there's a fiasco in the cinematic world, we're going to talk about it. Or if, you know, there's an update on a movie we're excited about, we'll talk about it. We'll discuss things. And then from that point, we will talk about our supplemental movies, basically, because we'll have a main feature that we're talking about. So, for instance, if we were going to review Michael Mann's Ferrari, we would supplement it with Michael Mann's other movies, but not all of them. We would just highlight 1 to 2 of them. So we would talk about Michael Mann's Heat, and then Michael Mann's Collateral, and then our main feature would be Michael Mann's Ferrari. We're not going to cover Ferrari. We didn't like it that much.
Those accents were thick.
And yeah, that's pretty much the format.
Cool beans.
But other times we will do more topical stuff like we're doing today, because today we are going to talk about movies that made us cry. But before we get into that main feature for this week, let's talk about what cinema means to us. Jayla, what does cinema mean to you?
You said cinnamon.
I did not say cinnamon.
You said cinnamon.
No, I didn't. I'm not doing another take. I know I said cinema, but if I'm wrong,
That's gonna be
it'll
real.
be there, and Jayla will feel vindicated.
Vindicated. Oh my goodness.
Selfish.
It means a lot to me. Going to the movies was always my comfort growing up to this day. Anytime I went through something tough, I'd immediately I'm going to go see a movie. I spent a lot of time in high school here at this theater because it is really like a second home to me. It's an escape. I love what a movie can do. It can do a lot of things. It can be entertainment. It can be a great story. It can make you think. It's just a great way to explore and think and be introduced to new worlds, and I love that.
I agree. I really want to feel moved emotionally when I go to the movies. I want to give a damn, you know?
Right.
I want to feel something.
And that's why this is a great episode, honestly. And I agree, too. I don't want to just feel blah, because it doesn't have to just be crying. It could be a lot of things, but you want to connect with the story. You want to be a part of the journey, too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And so for our horror show, we're always talking about what scared us or what didn't scare us, because that's one of the most baseline feelings. I always like to say that horror and comedy go hand in hand because they are trying to evoke a very specific response from you. Horror needs to scare you. Comedy needs to make you laugh. That's all it needs. All the other genres have sort of more complex combinations of feelings to make you feel. But those two, it's got to scare you or it's got to make you laugh.
Very human things, too.
Yeah.
We're all scared of something. We all like to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
They're great genres.
I'm glad we have this show now to where we can talk about the larger spectrum of human feelings. So let's talk about why humans cry, because isn't it a weird phenomenon?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about scientifically why humans cry?
No.
Well, neither do scientists.
Oh, okay.
The jury's kind of out on why we have this very specific response of leaking out of our eyeballs when we are overwhelmed with emotion, but it is a physiological response to any overwhelming emotion. Like you cry when you're happy, which I think is secretly sadness.
What?
So when you cry with joy or relief, it's because you're releasing all of that negative stuff you were already feeling. If you're overwhelmed with joy, it's because you had all this negativity built up and you're getting the relief there.
Yeah, that checks out, actually.
Yeah. One theory about crying is that it's an evolutionary thing where we are needing to signal to others that we are feeling some way so we can get comfort from them. So it's like a social thing.
Like babies.
Yeah, exactly. It probably started with babies. And then I guess we all just evolved into crying as adults. It works. I mean,
I figured it out, scientists. Pay me.
Jayla is the most empathetic person I know. Like, if I cry, she'll be there. She'll be crying with me. Like, she cries very easily. It's something I admire. She just really feels other people's pain.
Thank you.
Jayla's very evolved.
Well, you know. I do be crying.
But that's as much as I know about why we cry.
Mm.
So now that we've done our introductions, we're going to pivot to our main feature, which is talking about the movies that made us cry.
Yes.
And we are going to tiptoe around spoilers. We're going to be as vague as possible so that you don't have to worry about us spoiling any of these. Because if a movie makes me cry, then I can recommend it. Everything on my list I recommend, because if it was kind of cheap and forced, like if they shoehorned that emotional wreckage into it just to try and force me to cry, it wouldn't make me cry. I'm not going to cry from a dog movie because the dog always dies, and I think we're both a little bit super sick of that. Like, both having buried dogs in the past month.
Like a week apart.
2 weeks, yeah. We buried Jayla's dog, and then 2 weeks later, we had to put one of my dogs down. And yeah, we're just sick of that shit.
Yeah, I can do with not.
Yeah. So a dog dying movie is not going to make me cry, but luckily there is a website for that purpose called Does the Dog Die
Does the dog die.com sponsor us.
I was looking at that this morning because Marley and Me spawned a whole subgenre of dog dies movies, like The Art of Racing in the Rain. I will spoil Does the Dog Die because like frick that.
Oh, A Dog's Purpose.
A Dog's Purpose and A Dog's Journey. One of those is a sequel to the other. Those are about dogs dying and being reincarnated.
Frick that.
Yeah, frick that, honestly. So my first experience that I remember tearing up from a movie, not full on crying, was this episode of How I Met Your Mother in which Lily is telling Marshall something very heavy, and her crying as she's telling him just utterly floored me as a child, and it made me tear up, but I didn't full on cry. Later on in life, when I was 18, I was in my first relationship. It was pretty early on with my first girlfriend, and we were talking about how I had never cried from a movie. And so she was pretty baffled at that because she was an emotional person. And I don't mean overly emotional, by the way. Shout out to Mercedes if you're watching. I don't. I just meant like you have feelings, and I acknowledge that. And I cry from movies now too. So
I'm Mercedes.
We're both friends with Mercedes. We're all on good terms. I admire one's capacity to feel. But we were talking about movies, and how she was like, I cry from movies all the time. And I was like, I never do. And she was like, not even from like Up? And I was like, no. I had seen Up already, of course, but we decided that I would watch that opening sad montage from Up and try to cry, and it didn't work, and she ended up crying. Not because I wouldn't cry, but just because she was watching Up and she got sad.
Right.
So up until that point and through that point, I had never cried from a movie. So I'm going to let Jayla take reins of the conversation from here because her list is much longer than mine.
There's still movies I'm thinking of right now that I just haven't even added to this.
Yeah. We're going to talk about which ones made you cry and why.
Oh, boy.
As specifically as you'd like, but your list is long, so it might be kind of bullet pointed.
We'll do our best.
Take it away.
Taking it away. So we're going to start with a little bit of childhood trauma with a movie called Simon Birch that my mom made me watch. She's like, you have to watch this movie.
I am not familiar with this. Tell me about this.
Simon Birch. Simon Birch is a movie about a 11-year-old with dwarfism who doesn't know his dad. And he's trying to find his dad. And at the end, he dies. I'm just going to tell you right now. He finds his dad, and then there's a bus that crashes. Like, everyone bullies this kid. And the bus crashes into a lake, and he saves everyone. Like, he stays behind. Simon Birch stays behind to get people off the bus and nearly drowns and ends up in the hospital, and he dies.
Wow.
Why did my mom make me watch this?
I bet in his coma dream or whatever, it was that scene from Man of Steel where the same thing happens, but he saves everyone.
That's Man of Steel gave me PT. I had like a
Man of Steel is a fantasy dream of the kid from Simon Birch.
Yeah, I had like a PTSD flashback during that scene because of Simon Birch. I was like, oh no.
What should I have done? Just let everyone die? Kevin Costner goes, maybe.
It was so upsetting. I don't know. That's all I remember. I just remember him dying.
What's next?
Let's go on to the Transformers the movie, the animated movie. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, everyone dies in that, including Optimus Prime.
In the beginning, they kill like every single character.
And Optimus Prime comes back too. I don't know why we're not spoiling, and then it's like, well,
these are
okay, except this.
These are fine. It was like a huge deal because it was this children's show that a bunch of kids love, and they're all excited. They're sitting down, they're about to watch this, and they see their heroes get slaughtered. Just absolutely slaughtered. It's horrific. I don't. It was all to sell new toys too.
Every kids movie exists to sell toys.
It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. There's a little movie called John Q that I loved as a kid. It was my favorite movies. It has Denzel Washington, and he basically takes a hospital hostage in order for his son to get heart surgery. Like his son needed a heart transplant, so he takes over this hospital to save his son's life.
So justified terrorism?
Yeah, pretty much. That was fun. That was a fun time.
Did it make you cry? Well, I guess that would be spoily.
It was a high intensity moment, but it didn't make me cry for the reason I think you might assume.
I haven't seen this movie. I'm just gonna guess that it's just him being really upset and that it's not like the kid dies. But I don't know. Don't tell me.
I won't tell you.
What's next?
What is next? I have so many, guys. We'll do Marley and Me, because I have a funny story about Marley and Me. I've never watched the actual ending to the movie. What happened was, it was me and my dad, and we were watching it, and the dog dies, obviously, and it's like a close-up as they're putting the dog down, and I was hysterical. Like, I was hyperventilating, crying so hard, to the point where my dad jumped up. He's panicked. He turns off the movie. He's like, hey, no, it's fine. You're okay. It's okay. I was not listening. Like, he felt so bad.
They're just giving it its Bordetella shot.
I was absolutely a wreck. He could not calm me down. He had to, like, hold me because I was crying so hard at this stupid, stupid movie. I hate that movie. I hate Marley and Me. Owen Wilson, you owe me. You owe me. Click with Adam Sandler. That was a big one. We saw that in the theater, and I remember the moment because my dad cried too. Sorry, Dad. It was a really beautiful moment, actually, and I feel like Click is what sparked the reason I cry at, like, Barbie today. I feel like it started with Click. Like, it kind of...
Is it a montage of people living life, of just, like, life experiences?
No, it's not that. It's different.
Is it about being human? No?
No.
I haven't seen Click either.
You really got to watch Click. It's more about appreciating and living in the moment. I'll say that.
Okay.
High School Musical 3. I sobbed. I was crying in the parking lot on the way home and in my room because it was over.
Oh, so the very ending. Is Gotta Go My Own Way a song from the second movie?
Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't that moment.
No. It was...
What about trust?
What about everything we've been through?
I think I've only seen the first one.
So the end, it's called Senior Year. At the end, they graduate and they all come out on the stage, and they take their final bows. And I cried because I loved High School Musical, and it kind of felt like part of my childhood was ending at that moment. So I was upset. I was really upset. There's a movie called Pixel Perfect. It was a Disney Channel original, and it was basically this guy creates a hologram? I'm not sure the specifics of how this worked, but they're in a band, and he creates the perfect lead singer, right? And towards the end, obviously she can't stay, but she gets transferred into the other main girl's body for a bit, and you think she's gonna die for a second, and it was just a moment. It was just a moment, you know? It was really sweet to little kid me. You ever seen Barnyard?
I don't remember Barnyard, but I saw it as a kid.
Dude.
All I remember is that's called cow tipping, which was in the trailer, which is probably why I remember it.
There-
Also, I remember Mr. Boom Busted. It's like the rat singing Mr. Boom Bum Boom Bop.
Boom bop ba bop.
I know how. Watch it, Cosby.
Whoa.
I know how to talk. Why did Barnyard make you cry?
There is a pretty gnarly emotional beat in Barnyard. I guess I could spoil it. I don't think you're ever going to watch Barnyard, are you?
No.
Okay. So in Barnyard, you have the main cow, and he's kind of like a Nepo baby. He's like, his dad is the main guy that watches over the farm. And he's watching over one night, and coyotes attack, and he tries to fight them off. Like, it's an actual pretty dramatic scene, and he dies.
These are movies that made Jayla cry as a child, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I was a kid. I'm not an adult yet. We haven't gotten there yet, but we will. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry.
In the past, you're not an adult yet.
Yes.
In the
I am an adult now.
Yes, we're in our mid-20s.
Oh, don't say that.
We're in the mid of our 20s.
Stop it. You stop it.
We're old. Go on.
Okay. We have The Lovely Bones.
Oh, I hate that movie. That one is about a kid dying, like a teenage kid.
She was murdered.
Yeah, like being murdered. And mostly, that's not a spoiler, right? It kind of happens early on.
No, that's the whole point of the story.
Yeah, and so it's a grieving family, and it's just painful to watch.
Yeah.
And you got Stanley Tucci as a very convincing pedophile and child murderer.
And then Mark Wahlberg's there.
Mark Wahlberg totally like nerfed any emotional value I would have gotten from this. Like any sort of tears that I could have shed were completely ruined by Mark Wahlberg's performance.
He just never.
Like, oh, you mean my daughter got murdered? Oh no.
He never drops a Boston accent.
It's.
I feel like he plays it up a lot of the time.
I don't mind Mark Wahlberg, but he doesn't fit everything.
No, I'm sorry, Marky Mark. You're cool. Don't get me wrong.
But that one made you cry?
Well, yeah. It was upsetting. It was towards the end. It was a moment with her sister that got me.
Oh, yeah, because it's dealing with her in the afterlife and then her family back in the real world.
Right.
Yeah, I hated that. I hated that so much.
The book was even worse.
You read the book?
I read the book.
First or afterward?
After. But, oof. Have you ever heard of Pay It Forward?
Pay It Forward is one I would like you to spoil completely because this movie sounds batshit bonkers, but I've never seen it.
Okay. So, there's this kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a really great kid.
Uh-huh. Is it Haley Joel Osment?
It might be. He gets stabbed. He gets stabbed, and he dies over like a bike or something. Like the bullies just like shank him.
And Kevin Spacey's in it.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
he doesn't kill the kid?
No.
Okay.
Bullies kill the kid. And the reaction to the kid dying is everyone pays like being nice, like kind acts forward in his honor.
Wow. That wish... Wow, okay. I was about to say, good thing I didn't say this, but I was going to say, wow, wish that happened at my school so people would have been nicer. Good thing I didn't say that, though.
Yeah, good thing you didn't save it.
I'm totally leaving that in. Am I going to leave that bit in? Can I leave that in?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a movie of the Rugrats. Rugrats, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene in it where they're in Paris, I think, and Chucky is there. Chucky doesn't have a mom. And there's a song. It's like, I want a mom that will love forever.
That's sad.
I want a mom, make it all better. I forgot all the words. Anyways, they're all like, all the other kids are dancing with their moms. And Chucky...
And Chucky doesn't have a mom to dance with?
No.
Damn.
But yeah, but I think his stepmom like stepped up and like danced with him. But that was really sad.
You're not my real mom.
Like all these kids like there's like a song about moms and how like wanting a mom and everyone's dancing with their moms and Chucky's all alone. I think his mom died.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty messed up. We're almost there, folks. Do the Right Thing I didn't watch till I was older.
Yeah, I watched Do the Right Thing a couple of years ago.
Yeah. My mom was like, no, watch it. You'll love it. It'll be great. I'm like, okay.
It's a Spike Lee joint.
It'll be fun. I was mad. At my mom.
Yeah, it's not a happy movie.
No. I was like, why?
It's like a movie that you should see, but like it's not a feel-good time.
It is not a feel-good time whatsoever.
It's about racial violence.
She didn't tell me about that.
She's like, this is about doing the right thing.
So that was upsetting. I was upset. I was not happy with her. How many times am I going to say upset during this episode?
That's what it's all about, folks.
I just kind of was sitting there in front of TV, just down. Just having a bad time. It was a bad time.
Just did the wrong thing showing you that movie.
This movie kind of sucks, I'm pretty sure, but it's a movie called 7 Pounds.
Oh, I disagree. 7 Pounds is a great movie. I've seen that so many times.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't remember it that well, so I was worried that it didn't age well.
I saw it when I was a kid, and it upset me. It was really harsh. Of course, I still didn't cry from this movie. I will let you know when we get to a point where I finally started crying from movies. But I've seen this a bunch of times. It's got some heavy subject matter in it, but I think it probably holds up pretty well. Maybe?
For me, it was when she was listening. You know what I mean?
I don't remember. It's been a while.
It's a really emotional movie. It's a really bittersweet.
It's a downer.
It's a downer. No, it is a downer.
But it's wholesome-ish. Well, I don't know.
The means of
Trying to tiptoe around big spoilers.
the way they get to the end.
I would say just go watch it.
Yeah.
If you can handle heavy stuff, just watch that.
Watch it, yeah. Just be careful. If you're down, don't watch it. Anyways, Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3. There's a moment where you think they're all gonna die.
You know what actually got me the most
What?
was Andy driving away.
Oh, yeah. That was a real passing the torch movie. I never watched the fourth or the fifth one.
I didn't need to. Toy Story 3 ended it.
Wait, there's not a fifth one yet. They've announced a fifth one.
I don't want to. I feel like they did a perfect job with Toy Story 3.
All I know about the fourth one is that there's a spork that someone turned into a toy and he wants to kill himself. I might have found that out from a game of telephone, but
Doesn't
I think his name is Sporky.
no, the guy the voice actor, it's
I don't know.
from Key and Peele.
Key?
Yeah.
Keegan-Michael Key?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. I don't know.
What a great name, Keegan-Michael Key.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
What's next?
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I can understand that one. That ending was like, wait, really?
The dread I felt. You have no idea. I was really familiar with the storyline. I told you the story a million times. I knew it in my bones. It was going to happen. And as it was slowly coming together, I was just, my stomach was in knots.
I don't want to see Paul Giamatti in the next Spider-Man movie. Don't worry, you won't.
That was a fever dream.
Rhino.
But yeah, that hurt. That really hurt. I feel like in Amazing Spider-Man, these characters have such great chemistry. And I'm a Spider-Man girly. That's my dude. Always has been.
And there's comic book precedent for what happens there.
Correct.
But it's still
The way they went about it is only slightly different and a bit more painful, honestly.
Yeah.
That sound.
I don't remember the sound. I haven't seen it since it came out in theaters.
You heard the thud.
Dude, that was 10 years ago.
Oof.
She winced real hard just now. What's next?
Big Hero 6.
I've seen this, but I don't remember it.
I was late to the game on Big Hero 6. I'm kind of surprised you didn't cry at it.
This, I think Mercedes showed me that. It was before I had cried from anything.
It was dealing with brothers.
Oh, brother stuff gets me now, yeah.
Yeah. You know, it was dealing with brothers and...
There's a big brother. The main character's the little brother, right?
Right.
And then the big marshmallow man?
Yes.
Okay.
Big brother made Big Marshmallow Man.
Big brother made big marshmallow man.
Big brother...
Say that 5. Big brother dies?
Yeah. So...
I guess we can just spoil all the kids' movies.
Yeah. The big brother dies.
Really?
Yeah.
That's heavy.
That's why, the kid, the main character, that's all he had from his brother.
Oh, he leaves Baymax behind.
Yeah.
So it's not a spoiler because it's at the beginning, but Baymax is his big brother figure
Baymax is...
to replace his big brother that died.
he's kind of dumb.
I'm Big Dumb Marshmallow Man.
He's not all the way there, but he's cute. There's a scene in the movie where he gets a video from his brother that I think was inside Baymax or something like that.
Oh.
That was basically his brother saying that he believes in him and Baymax is for him and all that stuff. And ow.
Ouchie.
Ouchie. You love this movie.
Interstellar has a very similar thing with sad messages being left for someone who has been left behind.
Interstellar, I watched it in my astronomy class. I was in the front row. We were watching it, and I was like stifling my sobs. I was crying in the middle of class. It was like 10 in the morning.
I haven't watched it in years, but it would probably get to me these days because I probably haven't watched it since I started being more moved by movies than I used to be.
It's a beautiful movie.
It's in my top 5, but I watch it so rarely because I don't want to like burn out on it. I don't rewatch movies as much as Jayla does because I'm worried that I won't like it as much if I watch it too many times, which has been true for a lot of things.
It's great because I just fall in love with the movie again. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. But Interstellar is so beautiful. The story is gorgeous. I really love the core ideas. I'm really tiptoeing on this one. The core ideas behind it. The
Human relationships.
Yeah, the human relationships and the motivations and trying so hard to get back to something.
Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space. People shit on that so much. They think it's corny.
That's a beautiful line.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's the point of the movie.
It really is.
Love across time and space. It's an epic, incredible movie. I saw it twice in the theater when it came out. Still love that movie from afar.
It's great. It really is about love, like you said. And you can't really stop love.
No, you can't. You can't stop it.
I forgot. I can't word right now. I'll get better at that. Arrival.
Amy Adams talking to aliens with sign language?
I guess it's alien sign language.
Is it not sign language? I don't remember.
The aliens move into symbols. And
she's just like a linguist.
Yes.
Okay.
She's trying to learn what they're saying, learn their language. And she ends up learning about herself.
And that's why you cried?
In the loosest terms, yes.
Okay.
Have you not seen Arrival?
I don't remember how it goes, really. I have seen it, but...
Are you sure you've seen it?
Yes. It just didn't hit me.
That's going to be a rewatch. Because it's a great movie.
It's a Denis Villeneuve movie.
Oh.
Maybe we'll talk about that when Dune 2 comes up. Maybe.
We're going to rewatch Arrival.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's next?
Logan, I've only watched it once because it made me so upset.
Logan, I saw that right before Deadpool 2 came out. Yeah, that's it.
God.
It's not a happy movie.
It is dark. It is.
That was one of the first R-rated comic book movies. I mean, Deadpool 1 had already come out, but that's not... Okay. There's... Just roll that back. I didn't say that.
Did you see
the comments? Actually, Blade 2, Blade Trinity, Watchmen. Yeah, I know. Shut up.
Sin City.
Yeah, Frank Miller. I know things. I know things. Shut up.
Logan, the first ever R-rated comic book movie.
I didn't say first ever. It was one of the first. It was one of the first in a long time.
We'll say, I know what you mean because we are into the Marvel cycle at this point. R-rated comic book movies aren't really a thing for a while.
Yeah, because we're in an era, 2017, where comic book movies are kind of in a formula. People think they're on a formula now, but like they were all PG-13 at the time.
They're PG-13. They're not safe. Isn't the word I want to use. People didn't have to question bringing their kid to it.
Yeah, no, they were playing it safe most of the time. An R-rated comic book movie coming out at the time with a mainstream character that was already established in a series of PG-13 movies, that is a chance they took. But I think that movie did pretty well.
It did great. It did wonderful. It was a great story, but I can't bring myself to watch it again. I watched it the one time.
We're going to watch it in the next couple months, actually. Because we're going to have to watch it before Deadpool 3.
I know. It hurt, dude. I remember the scene that really got me, well, the first scene, no, one of the scenes that really got me was in the house with the family.
All I remember is the ending.
Dude, it's rough.
We're talking about movies I watched so long. Like, that was, yeah.
It's okay.
6 years. It's been 6 years since I watched that.
We're getting close.
But Deadpool 2, I watched literally the next day.
That's a weird shift.
And Deadpool 2 made you cry.
Just a little bit.
The emotional thing that happens in Deadpool 2, I am surprised at how well and how sincerely it is handled. The slow rendition of Take On Me by a-ha, the way they handle those emotional beats, actually great.
I agree. What's so great about the movie is it takes itself seriously when the story calls for it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't play around 100%. It does whatever the scene calls for, whatever will be the strongest for said scene. I think that's a really smart move, because it would be easy to make a billion jokes during that. It'd be easy for it to not really feel sincere, but it does. It feels like something this character is going through. You can feel the reaction he's having to it.
Yeah, good on them for making me like give a damn about Deadpool as a person experiencing something.
Yeah. Especially after the first one.
The first one just being funny, jokey joke.
No, I'm saying it continues the first one, and it builds off of the first one in a good way.
Oh, yeah. Deadpool 3 is going to be building off of a lot.
Yeah, it is.
The whole MCU.
Can we... Ryan Reynolds, stop posting stuff about Deadpool 3. I didn't want to see Wolverine's thing. Or I didn't want to see his costume.
Those are mostly leaks.
No.
He's addressing them because they've leaked and spread so much. What?
He posted it first.
Shows you what I know.
Ryan Reynolds. No spoilies, please. A Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place made you cry?
Yeah.
I can see why. Okay, yeah.
The last line, you know what I mean?
There's dialogue in that movie? You know that movie only came out in 2018? I thought it was older than that.
Feels older, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like it's really been part of the discourse for a long time.
I haven't watched the sequel.
Me neither. That's Cillian Murphy. We should watch it. Yeah.
Oh my God. Quiet Place. For some reason, I keep wanting to say A Quiet Place too. I don't know why. Quiet Place has a really great sincere moment in it that I just loved. It's very bittersweet. I'll say that much.
Okay.
That's as much as I'll say. It's so hard not to spoil some of these, I swear. Infinity Game.
Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, which we call Infinity Game. This is where I finally enter the crying discourse.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club. So my story with Infinity War is that I saw it with my girlfriend in the theater, and there's a scene in the middle of the movie where a big sacrifice is made, and my girlfriend's crying, and then at the end of the movie there is the "oh, I don't feel so good" line and all the stuff that happens at the end, and she's crying. I didn't cry, but I look over at her and she's crying. This is April of 2018. Well, over the course of that summer, we break up, and I become a little more in touch with my own emotions. And I rewatched the movie with my mom in the fall of that year, and then the moment in the middle where the big sacrifice is made, that is the first time a movie made me properly cry. The second time I watched Infinity War, and then the ending also got me too. And it was just this, it felt like a really huge moment for me, because I'd always loved movies, but I was finally having the reaction to things that I knew other people had. And so it was like a dam bursting, and it was just like finally like something unlocked inside me as a person. So there was that. And then after that, I watched the animated movie It's Such a Beautiful Day, which is about a guy losing his mind, sort of. And even though I didn't really understand the ending, it made me cry around the same time as that Infinity War rewatch. But then after that, 1 year after Infinity War, Avengers Endgame came out. That was a big one for both of us. Do you want to tell the folks at home about your time seeing Endgame?
Yeah, so for a solid chunk of this ending, I was a wreck. Like, guys, I know I've said I was a wreck before, but you have to understand, I was a mess. I cried. Like, I cried so hard that on my way out, when we were walking out, I made eye contact with a kid waiting to get in to see the next showing, and he looked scared. I scared him.
I imagine. I didn't know her at this point.
I wasn't sobbing anymore, but my eyes were red, like, and my face was puffy, and I just looked like just awful. I just looked like I just got told the worst news of my life. I looked horrifically sad, and I just like made eye contact with this poor kid. I call him a kid. He was probably like 15, and he looked scared. He looked concerned. It was I cried. It was a book into my childhood. You know, I went to go see Iron Man at the theater with my dad. I remember it. I remember hearing the Avengers initiative. I remember every step of the way. And then with Endgame, we were 20 now?
Something like that.
It felt like the end, like a end of the chapter of my childhood, you know?
It was the culmination of, 10 years of building a cinematic universe, of the culmination of like 22 movies up at that point, and they nailed it.
Absolutely.
They did really well. There's a point in the middle of the movie that parallels the big sacrifice in Infinity War. It's another big sacrifice being made, and since I've already got the memory of that first sacrifice, the second one hits a different way, and it kind of hits in the same way, but it's like, damn it, again, really? So at that halfway point in Endgame is where I started sobbing, but I was really going through it at this time too, and I just kind of cried throughout the entire rest of the movie, even during the battle scenes. Like, it just didn't stop, and then everything that happened at the end was just like another punch in the gut, and then they've got the end credits with the core 6 and their signatures and stuff.
That got me.
That kept me crying. I didn't cry until like the main credits were over, really.
That made me cry. That kept me crying too. That was just...
I was with my family, and they were like, what's going on?
Felt it, man.
I was like, why are you feeling so much?
I felt it. It really, it felt like they were taking their bows.
And we've been along with them for 11 years or so.
Right, and comic books and those movies just have so much meaning to me. They're really significant to me. It's just a huge part of my life. It was a huge part of my adolescence. So that was a huge moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Going forward.
Stranger Things 3 came out just a couple short months afterward, and I was in my feeling stuff era. And so the ending of Stranger Things 3 made me cry when a character died that I thought I didn't even like. And I still don't think I like, but somehow this character's death got to me. What about you? Did that get to you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. That got me, and then the letter. I cried with my dad during that bit.
They always leave behind a letter or something.
That's why you always leave a note.
Marriage Story made me cry. It's not a story about marriage. It's a story about divorce.
That's false advertising.
For sure. There is a moment with a letter in which the wrong person discovers something that was written for someone else, and this character is reading the thing, and the scene happens so suddenly that it was like a punch in the gut. And then the very ending, which has a lot of like metaphorical resonance, the thing with the shoe, I understood that. I felt that in my heart as someone with an ex. I understood what they were saying, and I felt it, and that made me cry a bit.
So is a shoe in for some tears?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. That was bad.
So another movie that makes me feel things is Wes Anderson's very criminally underrated movie, The Darjeeling Limited, which is about three brothers. And growing up, I was one of three brothers. And so this is a movie that resonates very deeply with me. I think the oldest brother is Adrian Brody's character. I'm not sure about the ages of the three of them, but it's him and Owen Wilson and Jason Schwartzman. And Adrian Brody mostly seems like the older brother, except that Owen Wilson is acting like the older brother. He's like very controlling and takes charge of everything. But the one I identify most with is Adrian Brody.
Knew it.
And there is something that happens midway through the movie where the three of them are all experiencing one crisis together, and the other two succeed in handling the crisis, but Adrian Brody fails. The line he says when that happens, I just feel it so deeply in my soul. But I don't want to spoil it. If you haven't seen the Darjeeling Limited, like I said, it's criminally underrated. It's one of my top 3 Wes Anderson movies. It Chapter 2
Oh, no.
is a horror movie that made me tear up just a little bit because Bill Hader cries.
Seeing Bill Hader cry, I couldn't do it. I couldn't handle it.
We've been watching him on SNL for years at that point. I mean, this is Stefan. Seeing the comedic relief get just kind of broken down by a situation and just break down crying, it hits in a completely different way.
Yeah, it was not only the obvious reason he's crying, but the buildup of all that stress throughout their entire experience of the movie. It just all kind of hits at one time.
Another couple movies that make me cry are part of a trilogy. It's Richard Linklater's Before trilogy.
Oof.
Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. And it is a couple of folks having conversations every 9 years. I can be more specific about this because it's not too spoilery. They meet for the first time in the first movie, Before Sunrise. And what made me cry at this time was that I was in a different relationship, and it was very on again, off again. And there's this conversation they're having where they're talking about what if you end up with the wrong person. And with everything I was going through at that time, I was like, what if you buckle down and marry a person and go all in and it's just the wrong person? And I was struggling with whether or not to stay in this relationship, and that line just made me cry. And then probably the next night I watched the second movie. It's important to know in the first movie, they're getting to know each other. They're just sitting right next to each other, but she's kind of looking off this way and he's looking at her, and he goes to kind of move her hair. And as soon as she turns around and looks at him again, he just pulls his hand back "Ooh, no, I wasn't doing anything." But he's reaching out and trying to connect with her. And so in the first movie, it's a very brief moment. It's just a little nuance that I noticed. But
Who's he?
Ethan Hawke. It's Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. But in the second movie, they have been apart for 9 years, and the roles have reversed. He's talking, he's looking off one way, and then she is reaching out to him, trying to find some connection. And that was my punch in the gut moment. That was when I knew I was so connected with these characters and was feeling their struggle to connect with people, especially because they connect so well and they hadn't seen each other for 9 years, and so they were struggling to reconnect. Just as a human who knows other people, I felt that.
I loved this trilogy. I loved spending this time with these characters. They feel real. They feel like someone you know. You feel really connected with the story. And the best part about it is it's not perfect. They're not perfect.
No, they're not.
They're not perfect. And there's so many different things that's relatable about their character arcs and about their conversations and the things that the movie explores. I feel like it's just a great experience to watch in general.
Because his character is so sincere and kind of mushy-gushy, and then she's a little bit more cynical, and she becomes more cynical as time goes on, and less likable. In the first movie, he's kind of more cynical because they're getting palms read or something. He's like, it's all just a bunch of gobbledygook. But he is so in touch with his feelings. And
he's very introspective.
Another movie that makes me cry is one that I have still somehow failed to make you watch. It's called Paris, Texas. And I don't even want to tell you why it makes me cry, but it is a moment with two characters hugging that I felt on a very personal level because of the analog relationship for that in my real life. That's as specific as I'm going to be about
That's
that.
interesting.
Yeah. It's a very simple scene. I don't know if there's anything even said in the scene, but it just crushes me. It's a sad movie. It's a sad movie. In 2021, we got Spider-Man No Way Home, which made you cry.
Yeah.
Midway through the movie?
Midway, yes, midway, as well as just another time where it kind of just evoked some nostalgia in me. It was really emotional because of, well, I saw it during a really rough time. And whenever I got some pretty bad news, I guess I would call it, my immediate reaction was to go see this movie again. That was my immediate reaction. There's a point midway that's pretty emotional, but also...
That scene just pisses me off.
I know.
It made me tear up a little bit, but now I'm just like, they didn't have to do that.
I cried a lot with that when that happened, but also as someone who, like, Spider-Man's like my comfort character.
The Raimi trilogy was like your most formative movies growing up, right?
Yes, exactly. Those were my first favorite movies. Those were the movies that spawned me into loving movies and comic books and Spider-Man is my comfort character. Always has been. So seeing that, watching that movie felt like a really big moment, felt like a huge moment to me. So there's a lot of different emotions going on there.
Mm-hmm. In summer 2022, around the time we met, we got Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is one of Jayla's favorite movies.
Oh my gosh. The first time I saw this was, I was in California with Mel, hi Mel, and one of her friends. And it was this amazing theater. It was a nonprofit theater. It was beautiful in there. There was one other person in there with us. And all three of us just cried through like half of this movie. And it's not sad. It's a very cathartic movie. Like, every time I watch it at the end, I feel like I just went through a nice therapy session. Mm-hmm. I feel good. It's a good kind of cry. It explores a lot of things that I struggle with as far as like my view of the world and things that I struggle with on a personal level, and explores them, and it really puts them into a different perspective that I find beautiful, but also just makes me feel good, makes me feel better. Mm-hmm. There's also one line that a character says, and it's just a gorgeous line. It's absolutely lovely. It covers nihilism and combating that, basically. Mm-hmm. Gives an answer to the question of, if nothing matters, what's the point? And I love that.
Optimistic nihilism.
Sure, yeah. I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah.
And it's so refreshing. It's especially now, I feel like a lot of cinema is nihilistic these days, or for a stretch of time it was. And to have a movie that not only is this spectacle and is exploring a lot of huge themes while also telling a really personal, complex, like personal story about human relationships and things of that nature, but the idea of leaning into the absurdity of life, the idea of living and embracing what matters to you, because that if nothing matters, you can pick what matters to you and hold that close to your chest and appreciate that. I love that.
Yeah, it combats that nihilism with a bunch of sincerity.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie. It's so sincere, and it would have been really easy for it to lack that, to not feel sincere, but even though there's crazy stuff going on, it's still at its core a really heartfelt movie.
Absolutely. Moving on to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This actually made me cry. The whole movie hangs on this tension of whether someone is going to live or die. And when you finally get the answer to that, whether it's yes or no, that is the moment at which I cried. Because this is a character I've come to care about over the course of like 9 years, because Guardians 1 came out in 2014, and we've seen him in a bunch of other movies. It's like, okay, this is this character's last stand. Is he going to make it? Is he not? And when you get the answer, for better or worse, it hurt.
Not only, I mean, this made me cry too. Not only that made me cry, but learning more about that character
Yeah, the character's backstory gets fleshed out, and it makes everything have a lot more gravity to it.
And it makes more sense why the character is the way they are.
Yeah, it's Rocket.
It's Rocket. Yeah, and there's a scene with Chris Pratt who is just in like emotional agony. I have never seen that man act that hard before.
And he's the comedic relief in most of those movies, so it's like the Bill Hader effect, like seeing that person be in emotional distress hits different.
You felt it. It really, it's these movies where they aren't afraid to take themselves seriously. They aren't afraid to lean into it because it's a comic book movie. Like, they do. I feel like some comic book movies have the issue of being afraid of their source material. And they're a bit worried about taking it seriously. They're a bit worried about it being too goofy. But with Guardians, yeah, they're goofy and they have fun, but also whenever things are serious, it's serious. It's played the way it should be.
Yeah, James Gunn definitely nailed this trilogy, captured all the emotional beats perfectly, more or less. I still don't really love the finale the way I love the first two movies. I think maybe it's just because I've gotten older or something. It moved me. I cried, but I think Endgame was such a finale for the MCU that I've really struggled to emotionally connect, which I think everyone feels. Anyone who was on board with the MCU through that, I think, is probably struggling more or less.
I really love the third one.
Yeah, you cried heavier than I did, for sure. There's a lot of animals in distress in that movie. It's actually pretty upsetting.
It's really stressful.
Do you want to talk about Barbie?
Yeah, Barbie made me cry. Cam makes fun of me for it.
All 5 times she went and saw it.
Listen, there's a moment where Barbie is kind of learning what it means to be human.
There's a big montage. Jayla's a sucker for montages of the human experience.
But it's beautiful because, like, what it is it's not a bunch of, like, crazy moments, right? She's looking around and seeing all the little things about life and everyone having these little tiny experiences that come together that make life beautiful. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's hard, like with the couple fighting, but sometimes you're laughing with an old friend, like the elderly people. And that was really sweet. You know, it's about taking in the time to see all the little things and how we're all experiencing all these tiny little moments.
Everything, everywhere, all at once?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's another line towards the end that I found just lovely.
What's the line?
We mothers stand still so our daughters can look back to see how far they've come.
I just think seeing Barbie learn what it means to be human and how fulfilling it can be, even though there's a lot of hard times, even though there's moments where we struggle, even though it doesn't last forever, those moments that make it worth it have so much value and they're priceless. And I think seeing that being appreciated, seeing that being highlighted, especially now where I feel like people are always on the go, always looking for the next thing, I think that's important. I think that's special.
Yeah. It was a very beautifully done movie. I saw it twice. I really appreciated it. Do you want to talk about the Color Purple remake musical?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it because I wanted to watch the original first, and also I'm kind of wary of all these damn musical remakes.
Yes. It's structured a bit differently than the original movie. They touch on a few themes a bit more than the original as well. I like the music. The singers are strong. Fantasia, who played the leading role on Broadway, is the lead in this. And basically, it's this woman who was separated from her sister. And it's about her years, her life. You know, it follows her through a time where she's really struggling. Not really struggling, but she isn't living the best life. And it kind of highlights her different years after she gets separated from her sister. Is the best way I can put it without spoiling things. You know, she gets married off to someone who isn't the nicest person. She eventually finds herself again. And there's a moment at the end. There's 2 moments. There's moments where she kind of gets breakthrough that gets me all teary-eyed. There's moments where things are shaping up for her that kind of moved me. And then there's a moment at the end that just wrecked me. I was crying, and it's not sad. It's not a sad ending. It's not like The Green Book, if you know what I mean. It's not like The Help.
I didn't see that.
It's not a sad racism movie. It's not. It doesn't really explore racism except for one side storyline. That's about it. It really is a story about this woman and the people in her life and her experiences.
This was more of a Barbie cry than like Isn't Life Beautiful?
No, it's directly connected to the story.
Okay.
It's not general. There's directly connected to the story and how that wraps up. One part made me mad. There's a character in this.
Is it the real jerk?
There's a character in this. He's a jerk.
He's a real jerk.
He is not cool at all. So,
I'm sorry to hear that.
but the music's fun. It looked beautiful. There's a lot of sequences that just are gorgeous. Yeah.
Well, this brings us to our final movie, and it made us both cry. It's the last movie that made me cry. We saw it a few weeks ago, and low-key, it was my excuse. This episode is my excuse to talk about this movie. Because, like, I didn't want to do a full review. I didn't want to go see it a second time with the notebook and everything. But I was like, how can I talk about this movie for just, like, 5 minutes?
This is a scheme?
Yeah. Did we say the title? It's The Iron Claw.
Yeah. Based on a true story.
Yeah. It's about brotherhood. And like I said earlier, I got brothers. And so this one hurt. This movie hurt, and we will tiptoe around spoilers because I do believe that history is a spoiler. If you don't know what happened...
You should watch it.
If you don't know what happens, then, like, the movie can move you the way it's supposed to. We saw it with her dad, who knew historically what happened, and it didn't floor him the way it did us. We had no idea what was going to happen, but some things happen, and it hurts. It's about a family who is cursed, maybe? But the curse is...
The dad.
The dad. The dad is the Iron Claw, because what it is he is living vicariously through his sons because he failed in his career as a wrestler, and so he's trying to get one of his sons to bring home the heavyweight championship. And he had this signature move called the Iron Claw, and what it is it's putting a lot of pressure on someone's head. You can see the metaphorical resonance there. That's why it's called the Iron Claw. He's putting all this pressure on his sons' heads. And it's a movie about brotherhood and family and about masculinity, especially of the toxic variety. Dun, 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 dun. Is that toxic or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're toxic.
Mm-hmm. So, as an older brother, this movie, I couldn't not cry by the end.
Yeah.
Because it is a ride. Like, this movie really takes you on a roller coaster that mostly goes down.
There's like, oh, this is great. I'm having a good time. And then, after one point, it just downhill from there.
It really hurts. Like, it keeps punching me in the gut, which is ironic because it's a wrestling movie, not a boxing movie. It's not supposed to be punching, I don't think. I don't know much about wrestling, but...
They punch.
I don't think I was supposed to be punched in the gut that many times.
Yeah, buddy. The real life story is actually even sadder, if you don't believe me. Literally, the director was like, I talked to the family, and it was really hard to make these decisions, but it would have been too sad and unrealistic if we did the full story.
They cut like an entire brother out of the picture.
Right. The third brother, the one that was a musician, he was a mix of two.
There are 4 brothers represented in the movie, and in real life there was a 5th one.
Correct.
Is what Jayla has told me.
Yes. You know, I did grow up watching wrestling with my dad, and it's a dark, like, listen, wrestling's all funny, spandex, and cheeseball jokes, but the history behind wrestling is actually pretty dark. There's a lot of stuff that's happened that's pretty sad.
What do you mean?
Well, the story is, of course, there's a lot of stories that are similar to this one. There's a lot of dark underbelly moments that have happened over the course of over the history of wrestling, where people have died There's people that have murdered. There's been a lot behind the scenes that's pretty messed up. But as far as Iron Claw goes, I found myself angry for them, for the brothers, for this family. I found it heartbreaking. It's so unfortunate. It didn't need to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because these brothers aren't allowed to show weakness. They're not supposed to cry, even in the face of tragedy. It made us cry, but it's low-key also about crying and being able to be a wholehearted person as a man. And growing up in East Texas, like just 2 hours or so from where this movie took place, I really resonated with that. Which is not to say that my dad is anything like that, because he's not. My dad's actually very understanding of like mental health and stuff. I'm allowed to cry in front of him. I have cried in front of him recently with the whole putting the dog down thing, and he's never called me a pussy or anything because I cried, you know, like he's an empathetic person. But I think there's sort of a cultural thing around masculinity around here, where there are those expectations of a man to be a certain thing, and like I don't need that shit. Crying is healthy. That's something I forgot to mention in the science bit of this. Tears from emotional distress contain more toxins than like onion tears. So there is a physiological like purging of negativity when you cry. But crying is healthy, and it is cathartic.
That's fascinating.
And the movie addresses that. And I think the movie has a very wholesome message that I really appreciated. I think this is like kind of an important movie that I think every man should see. I would recommend it to anyone, but I feel like any man should watch this movie.
I agree with you. Absolutely. I feel like a lot of problems that we talk about today, a huge chunk of that comes from suppressing emotion, from not being loud or feeling like you can, experience your emotions fully. It cuts you off from the human experience. You can't fully live as a human, fleshed out, be here.
The Iron Claw is my Barbie.
Yeah, it is.
Oppenheimer wasn't my Barbie. The Iron Claw is my Barbie.
You can't be healthy. You can't live life and experience it if you're emotionally clogged up. You have to blow your nose of all that congestion in order to be able to fully appreciate everything. To take that deep breath fully.
I don't know how soon I would watch it again, but I'm so glad that I did see it.
It was really, it was beautiful.
It wasn't the most fun movie, but it was deeply engaging. I gave a damn watching this movie, and that's what I want from movies, like I said.
It was really great. Zac Efron killed it.
Yeah, Zac Efron has graduated from, I guess he made you cry in High School Musical 3, but he's graduated from a goofy Disney Channel actor to like an actor. Like...
Was Go My Own Way from the third one?
I don't know. But, hey, Zac Efron made me cry in this movie. He's come a long way as an actor.
Actor. Yeah. Yeah. It made me think of the kid gets the ball thrown in his head. It's like, yeah! Have you seen that video?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, well. He was really happy about a ball being thrown in his head. Iron Claw, great stuff. Thank you, A24, for wrecking my emotions once again.
We would love to stick around and talk about more movies, but we don't have any more that we could think of. And anyway, who has the time?
Who has the time?
Thank you so much for being here for this first episode of Cinema's Last Stand. I am at the Palmyra Party on Twitter. Jayla's at CheeseStickRat. Collectively, we are at Last Scare. So you can follow us on there and subscribe here, ring the bell, because sometimes we do live shows and we wouldn't want you to miss out on all that fun.
Tell us what movies made you cry.
Yeah, drop it in the comments. Obviously. Or
Iron Giant, Bridge of Terabithia, Boy in his striped pajamas.
Ugh, that's a downer.
Just everyone cry together. It's healthy.
Do tune in next week for Poor Things. We're going to be reviewing Poor Things, which is a movie we found very fun.
Oh, it's fun.
Thanks again. We'll be right back.
Lipstick good? You're going to learn how to put on lipstick today.
I don't put on lipstick.
Have you ever put lipstick on a different person before?
No, but you kind of just smear it on, don't you?
Yeah. Pretty much. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hello? Where is it? Here you go. All right. Make me pretty.
Maybe I do need to learn.
Okay. Like that. Hurry. Easy. You're going at an angle. That's interesting.
I'm not trying to. Okay, no, do that. Yeah. You're good. We're good.
Am I?
Think so.
Okay.
Can you see?
You did great.
Okay, great.
Where's the...
Oh, yeah, I got it.
We'll work on it.